Hello and welcome back. This is Jennifer McGuire and I'm thankful you visited again today. So in one of my recent videos, I shared a surprise gatefold card design. Many people responded that they liked this, so I thought I would share another that's a little bit different. This one I called a split gatefold card. This is a great design if you have any basic die shapes or punch shapes such as circle, square, heart, star, snowflake, rectangle, anything pretty basic, even a butterfly. So I have 3 examples to share with you today, and also I'll give you a peek into my next video that comes out in a couple of days. So let's get started with the example that you see here. When the card is tied closed, it has this closed heart with some dimension behind it. But then when you untie it, it opens to a gatefold, and you can see the personal message inside. Let's start with the front of this gatefold card. For this, I'm using the new Simon Says StampDetail Petal plate. I am really excited about this die because it creates a pierced pattern, which I'm a huge fan of. You've seen me use many piercing dies in the background. The die itself will cut a piece that is 5.5 by 4 1/4, but I wanted a smaller piece, so I just cut a piece that's a little bit smaller and taped it right there in the center to get that fun, detailed piercing pattern that you can see here. This die will work with any die cut machine that you may have, and I'm using the Gemini Junior today. So there you can see the fine little detail. You could even stitch on that if you wanted to. Next, I'm using my Tim Holtz trimmer to cut this directly down the middle. Since this piece was a little bit smaller, I ended up cutting it into 2 narrow pieces that are 2 inches wide each. Next, we need to create our gatefold card. To do so, I'm starting with a piece of cardstock that is 5.5 by 8.5. And I'll score at 2 1/8 of an inch from each end. This is a common way of doing gatefold cards. My recent video was the same way, and I'll link to that here. Now I'm folding both ends in, and they'll meet in the middle, and I reinforce that with a bone folder. Now I have my 2 halves of the pierced piece, and I'll tape one to the left flap and one to the right flap. By the way, the cardstock colors that I'm using today are from Gina K Designs, Concord and 9th, and Hero Arts. This particular one is Gina K Peach Bellini. Okay, now I'm going to put something heavy on that while it dries. And then I have a strip of darker cardstock. This one's from Concord and 9th. And I'm putting it right at the center of this cutting plate. And I'll tape it in place so that I can get a bit of a pattern right along this thin border. No sense cutting a big piece when I don't need it. And check it out, I have that detail right on that thin border, and this will be a great accent on this card. Now that I have my background pieces, let's do the main heart piece that pops up in the middle. This is the Simon Says StampDetail Flower Heart die. I'm really excited about this new die. I love the detail and that it matches with the background die I just showed you. Using my scoring buddy here, I'm scoring right down the center of my hearts so that I can create a fold line right down the center. So you'll see I did the score line. Now I'm reinforcing the fold with my bone folder, and I have 2 hearts that are folded in half. You could use circles here, stars, hearts, rectangles, squares, any basic shape, especially if it's symmetrical. Now I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers Crocodile punch and punching half of a circle towards the center of each of these hearts. Now this is just a basic hole punch. You could use any basic hole punch for this. You could even cut little notches yourself with scissors if you prefer. I realized there's a new crocodile out and I went ahead and ordered it, and I'll link to that one below. Now let's assemble our card. Here is the border where I added the piercing detail with the background die, and I'm gluing that down on the center of a slightly softer piece of cardstock, again from Concord and 9th. I'll cut that in half and glue 1/2 onto the left side of our gatefold card and 1/2 to the right side of our gatefold card. I just thought this little bit of border behind the heart would give it a nice finishing touch and add a little bit of interest. I like how the piercing from the background ties in with the border that I'm adhering now and the pattern that's on the heart die cuts that we created. I used my T-roller to make sure I had it straight, and now I'm trimming off the excess. You can do any kind of background you want on that gatefold card. Okay, now it's time to add our hearts to the front of the card, but we need some ribbon behind it. I grabbed some silk ribbon from my stash. Any ribbon would work here. I'm putting some liquid adhesive on the right flap first and putting the end of my ribbon on that. You could use jute, you could use any kind of string, whatever you want. I also put a piece of double-sided tape on top just to make sure it stays put. And I'll do the same thing on the left-hand side. I glued it down with strong liquid adhesive. I happen to use Gina K Connect liquid adhesive and a piece of strong double-sided tape, which is from Lawn Fawn. So now we have a string attached to both sides. Now we can glue our heart on top of that. The reason I punched that little circle on the edge of the folded hearts is so there would be a place for our knot when the card closes. You could skip it, but this helps it to close better. Now I'm gluing the back half of my heart onto the card, making sure that little notch that we created with the hole punch lines up with where the ribbon is coming out. You can see that on the right edge there. Now I have my other heart, and I'll do the same thing on the other side, on the right side. Make sure you're pretty generous with your glue here. You don't want this to come off. I'm lining up that whole notch with the ribbon on this side and make sure that it meets in the middle. So the folded edge of the heart is right in line with the edge of our gatefold card on the center. So we have the left and the right, and the heart is folded so it has a little pop-up dimension to it. By using two hearts, both folded in half, it will result in having that dimension that creates kind of a handle that allows you to open the card. You could have just created one heart die cut it in half, and glued one half to one side and one half to the other, but I like that dimension in the handle. It creates that split gatefold look. And the little notches that we created with the hole punch gives room for that knot to be in the center, and it closes nicely. Okay, let's next create a panel to go inside of the card. I am really excited about the next stamp set. This is something that I've wanted to see for some time. This stamp set has lots of sentiments that you can stamp onto a panel to add temporarily into your card to encourage the person to pass the card on to someone else. This is the Simon Says Stamp Card Sharing Stamp Set. All of these messages can be stamped onto a piece of thin paper or cardstock and temporarily adhered or taped to the inside of the card, so that once the recipient gets it with your personal message on that piece, they can remove the piece and write their own message on the inside of the card and send it on to someone else. So it's kind of like a pass it on or pay it forward card, and I'm so excited about this. My next video, which comes out in a couple days, will focus on using this stamp set and the different ways you can use it very simply. I just wanted to show you it briefly in today's video. I have a piece of cardstock that matches my card, but it's cut slightly smaller. It's about 5 by 3 3/4. I've put it into my MISTI stamping tool, and I have a MISTI Creative Corner here. That's that triangle piece. That'll allow me to help straighten up the stamp towards the bottom of this panel. Then I'm stamping it with Hero Arts Unicorn White Pigment ink. I'm stamping it with a very soft ink. I want this to be subtle in my card so that the personal greeting that I write on this piece stands out. If you want this message to be more bold, you can use a color, maybe a darker peach or black, but I wanted soft, so I went with white. Now I can use some washi tape to tape this in the center. I'm using some narrow gold washi tape that I've had for some time, but I will link below to Altenew washi tape. They have beautiful washis that you could cut narrow or small to tape these pieces in place. So basically, I'm taping this here. I'll write my message on that peach piece, and then when the recipient gets it, they could remove the peach piece and write their own message inside of the card and pass it on. What a great way to continue the kindness. And again, stay tuned because my next video will talk a lot more about these inserts for cards. Okay, let's go finish the outside of our card. I added a little sentiment strip that says, "Hope you feel better soon." And that is from this new Simon Says Stamp Hello Sunshine stamp set. I am crazy about this. I love sunshine cards. I think it's a great, cheerful card to send to anyone. And I thought those little sentiments at the top would be good to include today. So I have my card here, and I just created a little sentiment strip that I glued only to the left-hand side of the heart, which you'll see when I open this up. I also added some soft pearls from Studio Katia. I'll link to those below. And you can see the final card with all that piercing detail. You can also see how the heart pops up on the side because we did that folded effect. So now let's go ahead and open this up. I'll just undo the ribbon here and it opens up easily. You can see that piece that is temporarily adhered to the inside with the tape, where you can write your personal message. Then the recipient can remove it, write their own message on the white cardstock, and then pass it on to someone else. So when the recipient is done, all they have to do is tie that back into a bow, which is very easy to do with this thin silk ribbon. I like using jute or thin ribbon or cording for this because it's a lot easier to tie. So I encourage you just to check in your stash and see what you have. I had lots of things that would work great for this. Later in this video, I'll do another card kind of similar to this, but with a different way you can add the ribbon, where instead it ties around that main focal point. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, I wanted to show you another example. This time I'm doing a portrait card, or I'm sorry, a landscape card instead of a portrait. So this is a sideways card that folds down the middle. This time you need to start with some cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 11. And we'll score at 2 3/4 from both ends. Now, when we fold these two ends and meet them in the middle, that will give you the perfect gatefold card. So I'm just reinforcing that with my bone folder. If you don't have a bone folder for creating these fold lines, I highly recommend it. It's such a great way to get nice, crisp results. Next, I wanted to create a panel that is stamped for the front of our card. So I used this new Simon Says stamp, Spring Flowers background stamp. I thought this design was lovely. I have a piece of sticky mat here that I've cut to go into my MISTI stamping tool. I'll link to the sticky mat that I use. This will hold my paper still. So I'm lining up my cardstock with the stamp in the area of the stamp I want to do. I then close my stamping tool upside down, press down, flip it over, and my cardstock is held there by the sticky mat. I'm inking up my stamp with Hero Art's Unicorn White Pigment ink, and I'll stamp it right onto my cardstock. By the way, this is Hero Art's Arctic cardstock, which is a beautiful dark teal color. I double stamped that so that the white would be nice and bright. Now I can remove the cardstock, clean my stamp, and wipe my sticky mat clear with a baby wipe. I'll heat set this because pigment ink takes some time to dry and I don't want to smear it as we assemble our card. Now I'll take this cardstock and cut it in half. By the way, this cardstock is slightly smaller than my note card, so it's about 4 by 5 1/4, and I'll cut that right in half. One half will go on the left side of my gatefold, one half will go on the right. Now I'm using some adhesive to adhere those pieces onto the front of the card, making sure that they match there in the middle. For the focal point of my card, I'll be using the Simon Says stamp Detail Meadow Butterfly die. It has that same feel as the heart in the background die I showed you earlier, but in a butterfly form. I'll cut 2 butterflies from this pool cardstock, and then there's also the antenna and body included, and I'll cut 2 of those from the darker teal cardstock. Remember, any basic shape die would work for this, especially those that are symmetrical. I will fold both of my butterflies in half, just like before. By doing this, we can have that dimension. It pops up and creates the handle on both sides of our gatefold. Next, I need to create the little hole that our ribbon can go through. This time, I'm doing it towards the inside of our butterfly. So I'll do a little hole punch right about there, and I'll do the same on the other. I didn't want to do it on the edge because this is so delicate there in the middle. There's not much in that folded area, and it would just cut the 2 pieces in half. So I thought this worked better. Remember, I do have another option for this design later in this video. Okay, now I have a piece of darker teal cardstock that I will put some adhesive on the back of and add to a slightly wider piece of white cardstock. I thought this would be a nice finishing border down the center. Once I have those glued together, I can go ahead and cut it right down the center with my trimmer. I glued the 2 pieces to the 2 halves of my gatefold, making sure that they met at the center. For the ribbon on this card, I went through my stash and found this soft pool satin ribbon, and I thought I'd use it for the border also. So I put some tape runner on the back of it to glue a little bit down the center of our border on the right and then the center of our border on the left. And I'll just trim the excess off. This makes it look like the ribbon is continuous through the butterfly bow that we'll create and kind of pulls the card together nicely. By the way, I used a little bit of low tack tape to tape my card closed as I did this so it wouldn't keep popping open. It really is helpful in getting everything lined up nicely. And now we can trim off the excess in the middle also. Now it's time to add our 2 butterfly halves and our 2 pieces of ribbon that will tie this close. So let's start on the left. I'm putting some liquid adhesive right on top of the area our butterfly will be. I'm taking another piece of ribbon and feeding it through the holes of one of our folded butterflies. I'll do this so that there's a little piece that will be hidden on the back of this half of the butterfly. Now I'll take some strong liquid adhesive. You can use double-sided tape here. I just like that liquid adhesive allows you to move it to get it just right. I'll press the end down and then put that right onto our card, right on top of the adhesive we've already put down. And I'll line up the folded edge of the butterfly on the right with the center cut of the gatefold card. Now remember that little fold on our butterfly is weak, so I'm just going to squirt a little bit of liquid adhesive in there and fold it down just to make sure it's a little bit stronger. And I'll put something heavy on there, which is usually my phone, while it dries. Now let's do the other side. I'm feeding another piece of ribbon through our folded butterfly, right through the hole, putting liquid adhesive on our card and also on the back of the butterfly. We really don't want that ribbon to shift after it dries. So now I'll put this half down. I'll line up the fold line of the butterfly with that center cut of the gatefold card. Put a little liquid adhesive in there just to make sure that it stays tight and the butterfly half doesn't break off. And then I'll give this some time to dry too. Next, it's time to create our little sentiment strip. I stamped a sentiment from the Sunshine stamp set that I showed you earlier onto white cardstock and trimmed it down. Now I want to make it sturdy. So on the back, I'm gluing another piece of white cardstock. You can see the white cardstock strip there, trimming off the excess, and then repeating that, putting another piece behind it. This will give it some strength and dimension. So now it's nice and thick and it won't be bendy because only half of it will be glued onto our card. Okay, so now that this is done, I'll put adhesive only on this little half over here. Then I will add that right at the center of our card so it'll only be glued to the left hand flap, but it'll be nice and center when the card is closed. Okay, so after giving that a little bit of time to dry, I thought I would add a few little pearls to this. So I have my Trinity Stamps bead tray. I'm using my jewel picker to add little Trinity Stamps Arctic pearls. I first had some here on the ribbon on the edges of the butterfly, ended up removing those, but I did add some onto the butterfly itself. I thought that was a great way to pick up on the pattern of the butterfly. Now it's time to add the body of our butterfly. Remember, I die cut 2 of these from a darker pool cardstock. I'll glue 2 of those together, again, just for some strength and stability. And then I will glue this onto the left half of my butterfly. You could glue it to the right, it doesn't matter. You just want to make sure to only glue it to one half because you want it to show when the card is closed, but not actually glue the card shut. So there we have it glued to the left-hand side there. And now we can tie our butterfly closed. Now I used a thicker ribbon this time. I do prefer a thinner ribbon, but I wanted to show you this worked if that's all you had. So I tied it into a bow and then I can trim off the excess. So here's our completed card. You can see the dimension that we have to the butterflies. Those 2 sides kind of pop up because they're folded in half. We have the white stamping on the background, the sentiment strip that's only glued to the left, but is centered when the card is closed. Now I can untie the ribbon and you'll see how the butterfly wings form like a handle to open up our gatefold card. In the inside, I have a little panel there where I stamped one of our card sharing messages, again with white pigment ink, and added it with some glitter tape. Again, you don't have to do that part. You could just put a message right inside the card, but I like that this gives you the option of passing the card on to someone else. When the recipient's done, they can go ahead and close the ribbon once again, or they can put it on display. It stands nicely when it's open also. All right, it's time for another example. In this case, I did another portrait card, but I added some background die cutting, and I also share a variation of creating the tie feature, where it wraps around our folded die cuts. Now for this one, I have a starting piece of cardstock that is 5.5 by 8.5, just like at the beginning of this video, and I'm scoring from both ends at 2 1/8 of an inch. Now when I fold along those 2 score lines, my 2 edges will meet in the middle, creating a basic gatefold card. By the way, this is Hero Art's Lapis Blue cardstock, which is a definite favorite color of mine, and it looks lovely with white and navy cardstock. Here I have the Birch Press String Art die. I thought this detailed die was beautiful. I die cut it from a lighter blue cardstock, and I'm cutting it right down the center. That way I can glue 1/2 onto the left-hand side of our gatefold card and 1/2 to the right-hand side. Since these die cuts are very dainty, I decided to use spray adhesive. Off screen, I sprayed E6000 spray adhesive on the back of this left-hand side piece and added it to the left part of our gatefold, and I'll do the same with the right-hand side. You can use any adhesive you want. I just find that to be the quickest when I have an intricate die cut like this one. You can see how the two halves meet in the center nicely. This time I'm using this Simon Says Stamp Detail Medallion die. This is just like the butterfly and the heart and matches nicely with the background die also. I die cut 2 from white cardstock, and I'm scoring both down the center. I thought I would use this for a Christmas card and kind of make it look like a snowflake, but you can make it look more like a medallion or even a layered flower if you wanted to. Now I can fold both of these in half right along the score line. Now I'll reinforce that, and I'll have those 2 folded pieces that we can add to our split gatefold card design. Remember, you can use a variety of symmetrical die shapes for this, or even cut your own. Now back to our card base, I did create a little layered border piece with navy cardstock and white cardstock. Cut it in half, and I'm gluing 1/2 to the right and 1/2 to the left, making sure that they meet nicely in the middle. By using liquid adhesive, I can put them in place, grab my T-ruler, put the T-ruler up against it, make sure that it's straight, and kind of move it until the positioning is just right. I do use a little bit of tape to kind of hold the card closed as we do this. I find that to be super helpful. Just keeps it from popping up as you go. But remember, when this card's been in an envelope in the mail, it will flatten on its own, so it won't pop up too much when the recipient gets it. This time I'm using a silver cording for the tie feature of our card. And again, this is going to be a little bit different than we did on the other cards. This time I did not punch a hole in our die cuts. Instead, I'm wrapping the cord around our focal point die cuts. So I have one piece of the silver cording, and I'm kind of fraying the edge so it's not too bulky behind our die cut. I'm putting one edge here with the cording going off to the right and putting double-sided tape over it. Any kind of tape would work there. And I'll do the same on the left-hand side. So this time the bow will not be at the center, will not meet at the center of the gatefold. Instead, it'll wrap around our snowflake die cuts when we add them. Now I'm putting adhesive on the back side of one of our folded snowflakes, and I'll add that on to the right side of our gatefold card, making sure that the folded line down the center of the snowflake lines up with that middle cut edge of our gatefold card. And now I'll do the same thing on the left-hand side too. Make sure you put something heavy on this as it dries to make sure that the cording underneath is really in there tightly and won't come undone. Okay, now I can trim off the excess of my little border pieces that are hanging off the edge. I can remove the tape I have holding that closed, and you can see how the silver cording comes out the left and the right of our folded die cuts. So now I can just wrap them together in the center and tie it in a bow. Again, any kind of thin, narrow ribbon would work for this. Any kind of cording, any kind of jute or twine would be great. Just look through your stash and see what you have. Now this particular cording will fray a little bit on the end. So at the end, I did tie a knot and then trimmed it so that it wouldn't fray over time. Onto my snowflake, I added some Trinity Stamps Stunning Silver Baubles. They're just little gemstones that are round and smooth, and I thought they'd be a nice accent. I also used the Simon Says Stamp Tiny Words Christmas stamp set from last year, and I white heat embossed that onto a navy cardstock strip. Now I have an extra navy cardstock strip there that I'll glue onto the back and trim off the excess. Again, this is to make it sturdy and also give it dimension. So after I trim off the excess here, I will put glue onto the left-hand back side of this only, and then place that centered onto the card so it's only glued to the left-hand flap of the gatefold card. Finally, I'm using Tonic Aqua Shimmer Pen to add some shimmer to my navy cardstock, just to add something to it. I felt like shimmer really goes nicely with the snowflake theme, and it worked perfect on the navy. So here's a look at the completed card when it's closed. You can see this silver cording wraps around our folded die cuts. And I also added those silver baubles, which really makes the snowflake image pop. When I untie the cording, you'll see how the gatefold card opens up and the two halves of the folded snowflake kind of pop up and form handles. In the inside, I once again added a panel with some washi tape with one of the card sharing sentiments stamped on the bottom, just to let the recipient know they can remove that personal message and write something in the card to pass on to someone else. So with this split gatefold card design, think about it. You can use any background you want. You can do stamping on the background of the gatefold, layered die cuts, embossing folder, anything. Then you can use any of your basic dies or ornate dies like I used for the centerpiece. So I will link to my other gatefold card that I posted recently in case you missed it. You might want to check that out too. Now before we go, I wanted to give you a peek at some of the cards coming in my next video, just because these products are really fun and they just came out. I didn't want you to miss out on seeing them. Again, I'll show you the process for creating these in my next video. I'm most excited about this Sunshine Layering Stencil Set. It's a small one, so the price point is really good. It's called Sunny Skies from Simon Says Stamp, and I used it to quickly create the little sunshine in the center there. For the background, I used the new rainbow layering stencils to do some white pigment ink clouds in the background. The sunnier days are coming sentiment is from the Sunshine stamp set that I showed you at the beginning of this video. So this is a fun one that I plan to mass produce for some teachers for the new school year. And again, I share how to do the inserts for the card, just some other ideas for that. So this will be coming in the next video, along with this rainbow card. This is actually a rainbow shaped card. Now this card I created very quickly using a brilliant new die set from Simon Says Stamp called Rainbow Card. It actually creates the folded card piece and then the little arches for the rainbow, some clouds, a heart, and a sunshine. I was so excited about this die set I wanted to give you a little preview in this video, but again, the full how-to will be in my next video in a couple of days. So here you can see the little mini card. It fits in a nice 4-bar envelope size if you have that, or in a regular envelope. And then you can open it up to see the personal message inside. I actually used one of the card sharing messages there and used temporary adhesive so you could remove that and the recipient could pass it along. And this does stand up nicely for display. It's such a fun card, another one that I plan to make lots of for teachers. Okay, there you have a look at some ideas for using the new Simon Says Stamp release to create split gatefold cards, and also a peek at my next video. If you are interested in these supplies, they are linked below in my YouTube description, but in the middle here, I link to some other videos that are related that I hope you find helpful, and also on the top right, I link to my blog that has much more information. Thanks for spending this time with me. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you soon.